Happy Saturday morning, everybody. Good morning from Serina Vassar and Gus. I just was sitting here drinking a lovely cup of coffee with my husband. It is really fun to do these vlogs. My goal for today is I'm going to be making some of my ground beef stew and showing you guys how to do that, the GAPS Stage 2 stew. And learning some more about video editing. It's kind of fun when you're doing daily vlogs like this. You sort of learn a lot about yourself. I did not realize that I had such a wide variety of I'm saying verbal tics. I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but as some of you may have noticed, I say the word lovely all the time. Did not realize that until I started listening to myself on these vlogs. So it's good to know, good to be aware of. I am developing my skills as a video editor and will eventually get better and better and have things like music and a little intro song. So wait for those things to come up. I did not do my stew last night. I ran out of time. I know I mentioned that on the end of last night's vlog, but I had all the intentions to do so. But sometimes on Fridays, you know, I just get caught up with work and paperwork, and then we have Friday family dinner, which is a lot of fun. Yes, kind of like in Gilmore Girls with the in-laws on Friday nights. All the dogs get to come together. So the Vassar clan, we've got here little Gus, our cuddle bug. We've got Drake and Henry, who are two Australian Shepherds, and we have Gabby, who's also an Australian Shepherd. She's the only female in the bunch. So they all get together and run in the backyard, and it's so much fun. So Friday family dinners, they usually take us to be a little bit late. I kind of turn into a pumpkin around 10:30 maybe at night, and I just fall asleep. So my body clock is very used to that pattern. So I did not want to make my stew last night. I'll be making that today. You guys will be able to see that. I'll take you along. We'll start prepping the ingredients in a little bit. And today's Saturday, so it's a big cleaning day. We're just going to be cleaning the house, and that's why I'm kind of still here in, bum clothes for the morning. I don't want to get cute and all that until after I have cleaned the apartment, the house here. And I think that's about it for the morning. I hope you guys had a wonderful evening. I hope you enjoy the sunshine today. It is beautiful and sunny. It's still not quite warm for myself, but hey, spring will come eventually. Summer will be here before we know it. And I am looking forward to the heat. So all right, I am here in my kitchen and getting started with my prep for the ground beef stew. I've got all my ingredients laid out. I'll show you here in just a moment, and then I'm going to chop it and put it together. This is from the recipe Ground Beef Stew on page 62 of the Heal Your Gut cookbook. I am modifying it a little bit. It calls for more stock than I'm going to use. It calls for 1 to 2 quarts, and I'm going to start with just these 3 cups. This mason jar holds 3 cups of liquid. The goal is here, I want to make it a little bit thicker so that Jeremy can use this as a base for his chili through the week, and I can just add a little bit of extra stock to make it more like the beef stew that the recipe calls for. So that way he can kind of tweak it a little bit, and we can work with both of our diet and lifestyle here for the week. But I'm prepared and I'm ready to go. So I'll show you my ingredients here. Actually, here are the ingredients. You can see some of my onions have started growing, so we'll see if I can use those, or if I might just cut off these tops and use those for flavoring. My celery, my carrots. I have dried spices of thyme and sage. It calls for fresh, but I don't have fresh, so I'm gonna make do with what I've got. And these are my ground beef packages that I have from our farm, and then of course the stock pot that I use to make the stew. So that's my setup. Oh, and right here, this lovely jar, that is our pork lard. That's going to be our fat for this recipe. So now I'm going to wash all of my celery and my carrots and then get started chopping. To wash my veggies, I use this Norwex fruit and veggie scrubber pad. So it's textured on one side and smooth on the other. The textured side is used when I'm scrubbing it on the carrots. It actually will peel off the skin, so I don't have to use a potato peeler. It just peels right off, which is super convenient. So then I just cut off the little tops and I'm ready to go. It's really effective. It works quite nicely. It's got some micro silver woven throughout the fabric, which helps to get rid of any bacteria or any other junk that's on there. So it's pretty cool. like crazy. So as you can see, some of my onions were sprouting. They had little onion greens coming out of it. They're totally fine to still have as long as the inside is nice and white and crisp. I peeled off, you saw me peel off that second onion, some things that were not as good, so I just tossed those away. I'm not going to use that in any other soups or stocks or anything like that. That just goes down in the garbage disposal. Because these onions have sprouted and started to grow, they're still fine to use. And then I'm going to steep these little bits. I might actually dice them up and use them. They're actually pretty good. These are nice to put on top of like salsa or something too, just as a side note for later in gaps when you can do salsa. But I'm going to dice this up and put that in the soup as well. And then I'll get started and chop up my beef. The fascinating part here with this is whenever I make chili or some other ground beef items, I will brown the meat first in the bottom of the pan. Well, with this particular protocol at this stage, stage 2, you can't brown meat. You have to boil it. So that's why we use our stock to put that in the stock pot as well so that it will cook our ground beef. I'm going to add a bunch of bacon grease here, lard. The recipe calls for 2 to 3 tablespoons. So I'm just going to put a big glob here in the stock pot and turn that on low. Another one for good measure. So turn that on low and get that to start bubbling while we finish chopping the rest of our items. Actually, we don't have much to chop. I just really need to get this ground beef into the bin, and I'm going to dice up these little bits and we'll be good to go. And that's it. I put all of our vegetables in the stock pot, the bacon grease for our fat element, and the stock. The stock is very important because at this point in time, we really want to very well cook and slowly cook our vegetables. We're not going to saute them yet. So that's what I would normally do if I were making a regular chili or beef stew or something like that. But right now, I'm just going to let it slowly cook in the broth, in the stock. The recipe, like I said, calls for 1 to 2 quarts. I'm just doing 1 quart. I did my 3 cups. It's about 3 to 4 cups that I poured in there, and I'm gonna let those vegetables cook. We turn them on high. Once they start to boil, I turn them on low until they're a bit soft. And when I turn it on to low, I'm also gonna add in the ground beef. So I'm gonna break that up into some pieces and drop that in once the water starts boiling so it can get cooked that way as well. Nice and slow and easy. And then I'm gonna sort of cook off some of the liquid, like I said, so that Jeremy can use the base for his food, and then I can just add what I need to add for mine. For spices, the recipe calls for fresh rosemary, fresh thyme, and fresh sage. I don't have any of those on hand fresh. I do have dried thyme and dried sage, so I am going to teach you my favorite trick to include those flavors when you don't have fresh ingredients. The fresh herbs are supposed to be strained out. You don't eat them yet in stage 2. So what I'm going to do is actually use here a little saucepan, a strainer basket, and my dried ingredients. So what I did actually just now off camera is I poured some of the broth from that stock pot back into this little pot. And you can see we've got a little bit of carryover here. We've got a little bit of the liquid that sits through the pan. So we're gonna use that to infuse our broth with these flavors. I'm just gonna take the measurements that it suggests and turn it and convert it into dried. Typically, if you have, for example, a tablespoon of fresh herb, you do a teaspoon of dried. So I'm gonna do a couple of teaspoons of this, drop it in my strainer basket so that way the actual herbs aren't in the stock itself, and we'll be able to put that, once it's infused, I'll let it simmer on low for a couple of minutes till it starts becoming fragrant. Then I know that it's infusing nicely, and then I will dump that soup, I guess I call it soup, the stock right back into the big stock pot for the rest of the cooking. Added our ground beef, and that is just simmering away. It actually smells really good. I've tasted a little bit of it. It's gonna look a little bit more pink than if you brown the meat yourself, but that's totally okay. It's definitely cooked. It's a little pink here on the camera, but in real life it's definitely brown. So I'm gonna let that simmer for a while, and then we are all set. And this is going to be my lunch for today. Cleaning is done, lunch is done, and now my husband and I are gonna go grocery shopping. Gus is gonna stay home for this one. He often comes with me when I'm by myself. We do, training exercise in these these things. But when I go out with Jeremy, he doesn't need to come along, so he's gonna stay here and hang out instead of coming with us. And I probably won't vlog while I'm at the grocery store, but I'm gonna go be picking up some things for the rest of my GAPS diet. The stew that I made, the ground beef stew, is kind of going to be my plain meal for the rest of the week. I'm going to add things like egg yolks to it, and then in a little bit, a couple days, I'll be able to add the whole egg and start adding some avocado. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That stew was really good. I didn't film it, but I added the egg yolk and the probiotic liquid, the juice, to it, and it turned out great. It's really, really a nice little change of pace from all of the chicken soup that I was eating earlier in the week. So I'm excited to have that for the rest of our time together in this week, and then go grocery shopping and come back in a little bit. Back from Whole Foods, did our weekly shopping. Everything went totally fine. So we actually, sneak peek, tomorrow on the Painter and the Pixie, that's our recording day, Sunday, we're actually gonna have a couple of guests. So I'll put a little link to that once we have that podcast up later on this vlog, at the end of the vlog, so you guys can check that out. But for our guests, we're going to make some food. I have my stew that I made earlier today. You guys saw me do that. And so what I did is I took out several portions for myself for the rest of the week, and I'm gonna turn the rest of this into regular chili. That's gonna be for Jeremy for the week, and then for our 2 podcast guests while we feed them tomorrow. So here's my ingredients here, my portions that I saved for myself, and then all the spices and other elements that I'm going to put into the chili, and I'll show you how to do that just now. And that is it for me today, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. It is now well past my usual bedtime. We've had a lot of cleaning, a lot of cooking, a lot of preparing food, and eating some good food on the GAPS protocol. That is all for tonight, like I said. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope you've learned something. I hope that there was some encouragement for you along the way. That soup was really not hard to make at all. I did also want to clarify before I actually finish signing off the vlog for tonight that the variation I made at the end there, the chili, was not GAPS approved. That was just for Jeremy and the rest of our guests, so they could eat something normal. But anyway, with that, I'll say thank you very much and good night. See you tomorrow.